Hello and welcome to the Blithering Geezer channel. No, actually, this is the 7M Phonemic English channel. And what I want to talk about in this video is the Cot-Caught Merger. This was brought to my attention recently by someone who left a comment in response to one of my comments that I made, I think, a year ago. It was like resurrecting an old conversation. And she also resurrected the accusation that I was racist because I was complaining about people who merge the I, the short I, and the long E vowel, which causes all of the words with the short I, such as sit, to become seat, grip to become, or grit to become greet, hit to become heat, etc. And I was accused of being racist towards Indians because apparently having the expectation that somebody use English in a responsible fashion is either a form of racism or something else. And when I brought it to this commenter's attention that I also complained about Bostonians who turn virtually every ah into an ah, so that shock the shark becomes shack the shack. And this is word destruction that happens because of these mergers. So then I was accused of being a bigot. So you can't win. I mean, that's the modern liberal. Anytime you expect people to do something properly, you're either a racist or a bigot. There's no governing body over the English language, like an international standards organization that steps in and says, you guys are mangling and mutilating the English language a little too much here. We're going to have to stop you, and we're going to have to put you through some training so that you can learn to make the I sound, because it's really important. We have a huge number of words that use the I, the short I sound, and we can't have you just eliminating all of those words from the spoken language. So anyway, one of the things that this commenter did was bring up the Cot-Caught Merger, because that's something that we've done here in the United States. It's something that happened in the ancestry of the place where I was born and raised. I think it happened in the mid-18th century where I live, something like that. So probably many decades before I was born, the merger had already happened. And so it's all I ever knew. I only have one aw sound in my arsenal. So whether it's fought or caught or pond or fog, it's all the same aw to me. I don't recognize the difference between, well, there's about 4 different aw sounds. Some of them are more frontal. They're more towards the ah, and others are more towards the o, especially with the British. The British, if you go to the posh accent, you have a really kind of deep gagging O sound, like fought. He fought him. He caught him. So I actually considered demerging myself, but because I don't like destroying words. But what I found, if you go down here to the overview, here's a list of all of the words that are theoretically destroyed by the Cot-Caught Merger. And it's not that many. It's like 27. And actually, if you look down here at walk and walk, WOK didn't come into the English language until 1952. Yeah, walk. 1952 from Cantonese, in other words, China. So the word WALK was not destroyed by the merger. It was destroyed by WOK being imported from another country. And the pronunciation not changed to avoid a conflict with an existing English word. In other words, we're trying to preserve the way it's pronounced in a foreign country by non-English people. And because of that, we're destroying one of our own words to make way for the import. That's what happens when you don't have a governing authority protecting your language. That shouldn't be allowed. If it sounds exactly like a word that you already have, then you need to change it to something else. Unless you want to change the word that you already have to something else. Otherwise, the only other option is that you spell it the same way, but you have to have a phonemic alphabet to do that. The written language should match the spoken language. That's the whole idea. That's the brilliant idea. That's the genius idea of the ancient Phoenicians, who decided that they would have symbols to represent their speech sounds so that the language of the eye and the hand would match the language of the mouth and the ear. Of course, we didn't stick to that. We allowed all sorts of various forces and the lack of an organized governing body or a central authority to control the language, and a central authority that wasn't run by clowns. There was a lot of ignorance and a lot of clown activity all through the centuries. So we now have an alphabet that's only half phonemic. So in other words, it's only half of an alphabet. An alphabet, a true alphabet, is supposed to be phonemic. That's part of the definition of what an alphabet is. We don't have that with English. Well, so anyway, I'm getting off track. So the word walk, W-L-A-L-K, was not destroyed by the merger. It was destroyed by the importation of the word W-O-K from China. And this is true. You look up here, you've got haughty and haughty. So H-A-U-G-H-T-Y was not destroyed by the merger. It was destroyed by the invention of this H-O-T-T-E-I-E, which was not imported. It was just an invented word. And it happens to be a homophone for a word that we already have. So my proposal for 7M, a truly phonemic alphabet and spelling system, what that's going to mean is that if words are homophones like this, then they will be spelled exactly the same. And you will have to add the meanings to the single word. Your written word, your writing will perfectly match, almost anyway, perfectly match your spoken word. So the language of the eye and hand will match the language of the mouth and ear. So homophones will be spelled the same. They won't just sound the same, they will be spelled the same, and you'll have to add the meanings. So when you look that single word up in the dictionary, you'll have a list of multiple meanings. And you'll have to sort the meanings out based on context, which is what we do with, you look up any word in the dictionary and you're probably going to see a list of 1 to half a dozen different definitions. You look up here B-O-T and B-O-U-G-H-T. I think B-O-T is a fairly new word. So B-O-U-G-H-T was not destroyed by the merger. It was destroyed by the creation of a new English word. And some of these words are uncommon. We don't use them very much, so it's not that big a deal if they get destroyed. So my point is that the Cot-Caught Merger is not a big deal. It's like a little sparkler. It's a little firecracker going off as far as the detrimental effect that it has on the English language. On the other hand, if you merge the short I with the long E, that's a thermonuclear warhead. I mean, that's a thermonuclear detonation of the language that destroys hundreds of words. And these words are core words. They're some of the most frequently used words in the English language. So you really can't afford to, you can't accept that level of destruction. And to say, oh, well, it's just, it's neat how people of different countries do their own thing with the English language, and variety is the spice of life, and it's so cute and adorable. And well, that's like saying that when Elon Musk and SpaceX start going to Mars, they should be happy that 3 out of 10 Mars missions explode on the launch pad, right? Oh, it's variety is the spice of life. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't go along with that. So when I thought about this Cot-Caught Merger, my first question was why? Why did it happen? And the only split that I knew about was the way that the British split it, which is caught, cold. They basically moved to an O-ish sounding ah. They moved the ah toward the O. So when I'm looking on this article here in Wikipedia, it says there are 2 traditional theories of the merger's origins. They have been long-standing in linguistics. One group of scholars argues for an independent North American development, while others argue for contact-induced language change via Scots, Irish, or Scottish immigrants to North America. In fact, both theories may be true, but for different reasons. Let's see, Pennsylvania, influx of Polish or other Slavic language speakers whose learner English failed to maintain the distinction. So typically what's happening is you have people with a native language that doesn't include one of the sounds that's used in the split. So they merge both sounds into one sound, which is the closest vowel in their inventory that they can discern, and that they can, they call it production and perception. Perception is when you perceive that the 2 sounds are different and meaningful. In other words, if you don't get that sound right, it's going to mean a change of word, right? Like sit and seat. If you don't perceive that sit is different from seat, then you're not going to understand that sit is a different word from seat. So you have to perceive in your mind that those 2 sounds are different so you can distinguish the 2 words one from the other. So that's perception, and the other is production, which means that you can speak those words differently and distinguish the words in your own vocalization of them. So one of the things, the first thing that I thought of was the fact that this country was founded in rebellion against the British monarchy. And one of the sounds of posh English, which is the accent of the aristocracy of Britain, is the ol That's very British sounding. In fact, I feel like I just turned British as soon as I say it. So if I'm considering demerging myself or resplitting myself along the lines of using aw and ol, I feel like, no, there's no way I can do that. It's like I'm going to be it kind of like building a house and using two different styles of architecture. It's going to look like a Frankenhouse, right? Everybody's going to refer to your house as the Frankenhouse abomination on 5th Street or whatever. You just can't mix two different styles together like that, especially if it's just like one corner of the house. So I really can't split in the way that the British split those two sounds. And apparently that's not the way that most people in America split. So there's an audio recording here of, they call it a non-merged speaker. It sounds like somebody from Boston, if you ask me.
Cot, caught, cot, caught, cot, caught.
He says cot, caught, cot, caught. So the way he says cot sounds very close to cat. I can hardly distinguish the two. I'm not going to know whether he's talking about a cat or a caught, like a C-A-T versus a C-O-T. I don't have that sound in my inventory. All I have is caught, ah, ah. That's the only ah sound. I don't have an a-ish sounding ah, and I don't have an o-ish sounding ah. I have what I guess you would consider a pure ah, an ah that's centered right on the ah sound without any inclusion, a little bit of ah. It's kind of like a color spectrum, right? You have a deep red, but you mix in a little blue and you start going pink, right? And you can have like some in-between color. And you have to mix in some other colors there to get a new color that is discernibly different than the one, if you're just mixing in a tiny bit of blue, you're probably not going to be able to tell that it's a slightly different color. It's the same thing with vowels. You have to mix in, enough of another sound to create a new vowel that's clearly distinguishable from another vowel. Here's an example of a merged speaker.
Caught, 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 caught.
Caught, caught, caught. So that's merged. That's me. I'm merged. This other one is like caught, 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 caught. That's foreign to me. I have a really difficult time hitting that vowel, that a-ish ah. And I certainly would not distinguish it. I do not perceive a difference. If I hear somebody from Boston or wherever this person is from talking like that, and he says "cot," I'm just going to mix that in with the ah. Mentally, I'm going to think that it's the same vowel. I'm not going to detect or consider it relevant that, I'm just going to think, oh, he's talking with a funny accent or something, but he means caught as in aw, as in, either C-O-T or C-A-U-G-H-T. I'm not going to recognize that he's differentiating between the two words, unless I hear him say both words one after the other, then it might occur to me, oh, he pronounces each of those words differently. Otherwise, no.
Cot, caught, cot, caught, cot, caught.
Cot, caught, cot, caught, cot, caught.
So my theory is that it was the desire of the American people to de-Britishize their language. The posh British accent, the language of the royals, I should say the accent of the royals. It is an accent that says We're superior to you. We're better than you. We are your rightful rulers. And you should grovel before us. You low-blooded, slovenly scoundrels. It's a very conceited, pompous, and condescending accent. And it's not just, oh, you're reading something into it that's not there, blah, blah. No, it's exactly what they meant it to be. This accent was invented by people who literally believed that they were better than the commoners. And they adopted that accent. They refined and nurtured that accent to be exactly what you think it is what you perceive it to mean is exactly what they meant it to mean. For instance, the Carolina accent. I don't know if you've heard of the Carolina squat. This is people in Carolina who modify their vehicles so that the rear end sags or sits low and the front sits high. And it means something. It means laid back. That's their philosophy about life. And their accent conveys that very disposition, and has for long before I was born. So their accent conveys or communicates a disposition in accordance with exactly what they meant it to convey. And if you don't understand that that's the big, that's what accents do. To a large extent, accents are a way of communicating an emotional disposition. And Americans rebelled against that very thing, what the British were doing. They not only rebelled against the British sound, right, the British accent, and sought to clean that completely out of their way of speaking English. They rebelled against the whole idea of being pretentious, period. Which is why the general American accent is essentially no accent at all. It's very neutral. If you're angry, you can make yourself sound angry. If you're sad, you can make yourself sound sad. But the accent itself does not communicate some, general disposition. If it did, let's face it, as a human being, you do not feel a particular emotion all the time. If you're from Carolina, you do not feel relaxed and happy all the time. Sometimes you don't. But you have to maintain your accent because it just becomes part of the way you speak. So you're sort of, in a way, you're being pretentious because you're pretending to be something that you're not some of the time. And I think that Americans rebelled against that in addition to the desire to cleanse the language of any British sounding condescension and airs of superiority and whatnot. They wanted to move towards something that was just devoid of any pretense whatsoever. And you might say, well, that's just a theory. Well, basically that's all anybody has is theories. You can't know unless you go back in time and actually witness and study what's happening and ask people, why are you changing that sound? A lot of people came from England. A lot of people came from England precisely because they wanted to get away from the royals and their abusive manner. All anybody has are theories. And my theory is not entirely unsupported. Like I said, when I consider demerging myself, and when I consider that the way I'm going to do it is by bringing the British vowel ol, I'm going to say caught and caught. I realized that's not going to work. That's too British sounding, and I really can't go that way. Even though I don't hate the British people, they were abused by the royals as much as anyone. And they largely did not have that accent. It was the aristocrats that had that accent. But like I said, when I considered bringing that into my general American English, it's like, oh, that's just not going to work. It's just not the right, it doesn't match the style. So if that's the case, then it may well be that that's the reason why the merger happened in the first place, to get rid of that sound. People just wanted to get rid of that sound. And the solution that they came up with was to just use the ah where they may have at one time used the ol. It's sort of like you discover a tool that is in a place that it shouldn't be. So you bring it back and you put it where it's supposed to be, and then you go to use it a week later or something, and you discover that it doesn't work right. In fact, it causes a lot of problems for you because it doesn't work right. And then you realize, oh, that's right. That's why I put it out back on the back porch, because I discovered that it wasn't working right, last year. So I put it out there to make sure that I wouldn't use it again. And then I forgot that that's why I put it out there. So, in other words, the reason why you can't bring it back is the same reason that you put it out in the first place, right? So that's what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting that if you try to demerge, you will then suddenly realize why you merged in the first place. The other thing is, if you notice, when I played this non-merged speaker audio file, there's something missing here. The ol, the British ol, is not part of this unmerged speech. So in both cases, for the case of the merged speaker and the case of the non-merged speaker, there is no British ol. The non-merged speaker actually takes the split and shifts it towards the front, towards the ah, so that C-A-U-G-H-T now sounds like C-O-T, right? That gets the aw sound. And then C-O-T gets the ka, the almost an ah. So in both cases, it seems that they tried to get away from the British ol. So they're, I'm just sort of trying to make a case for my theory, but it still could be entirely wrong. Language is really messy when you have so much immigration and so many words that are being imported from other languages, and then people come up with spellings that, take for instance C-O-T and C-A-U-G-H-T, which, that's the Cot-Caught Merger. Well, believe it or not, caught is the past tense of catch. And it wasn't that long ago. Yeah, this is etymology online, basically. Past tense caught, past tense and past participle of catch, attested from 14th century. Predominant after circa 1800, replacing earlier catched. Now, I'm not sure what they're trying to say here. Was caught part of English in the 14th century, but then it became catched, and then it reverted back to caught? Or was it always catched and then changed to caught? Then they say it's a rare instance of an English strong verb with a French origin. This might have been by influence of Middle English lochen, or latch. So circa 1800, caught came in. Now, what people say, what the experts say, is that the merge was happening even in the 1700s. So the merge was happening before caught was introduced into the English language and replaced what had been the word catched. So why did they choose to spell it with the GH, which is a digraph that references a hard H sound that goes back to like pre-1600 or something? It's like, people, the English, the British, got rid of that hard H sound, which is like it's a loogie hawking sound. It's gross. It hurts your throat. So they got rid of it, understandably. Probably because I went back in time and I convinced them that, you really need to stop that, folks. It's an unhealthy sound. It's unbecoming. You're going to stop using it anyway, so why not now? Why not sooner rather than later? Just stop. And because if I hadn't done that, and I haven't done it yet, so what this means is that before I die, I'm going to have access to a time machine, and I'm going to be able to go back in time and do this and stop them from using that horrible loogie hawking sound. So it would have been like with the word fought, it would have been fought. He fought him. And the word plow, P-L-O-W, used to be spelled P-L-O-U-G-H, so it would have been pronounced something like plow. We've got to go plow the field. That's that. The GH is a digraph, which stands for the loogie hawking sound, which shouldn't exist in any language. So, it's all convoluted and crazy. Nobody kept control. It's like the kids running wild in the playroom and there's no adult supervision. That's pretty much how the English language has gone. So now the question is, I've put together this 7M alphabet and I only have the one ah sound. I don't have this sound that the A with the two dots above it that this non-merged speaker is using. I don't have that. I just have one symbol. It's an upside down V. It's called a strut. That's the symbol for the ah sound. That's the ah in father. That's the ah in bother. That's the ah in fog. So I'm going to stick with that because that's the way the country is moving. Yes, 60% of the USA, and they have a map here that shows where is that? Yeah. The green dots are all the places where the merge has happened, and you can see Vermont is, I guess, mostly green dots. That's where I was born and raised. The blue dots are where the split is being maintained. The yellow dots represent areas where the younger generation is currently in the process of merging. So that's the way the country is moving. The country is moving toward the merger. And there's no good reason to stop them because the destruction of words is minimal and it avoids using a vowel that sounds almost like cat. I don't want to have to struggle with trying to figure out whether somebody's saying cat or caught. You should have a good separation between vowel sounds is what I'm saying. So I'm not going to change the 7M alphabet to include, another symbol for this IPA right here, the A with the double dots. That sounds like ah. No, it's like, what are you trying to do? Just make the ah sound. Stop trying to split hairs. If you say ol, Okay, well, that's very different. I easily detect a difference there. That's a good vowel. It's a very Britishy vowel, so I'm not going to, we, as North Americans, as U.S. citizens, we are not going to bring that vowel back into our language, but it certainly distinguishes itself as a very different sounding vowel. So maybe someday we'll make use of that somehow. They certainly do in Britain, and good for them. But because of the very limited amount of word destruction, it's not worth it, in my opinion, to include a separate vowel symbol for these various. I mean, if you go to the IPA vowel chart with sounds, all of these symbols along the bottom, from the sort of like the typewritten A, to the A with the two dots above it, to let's see, can I select this? To that, which is like a handwritten A, to that, the backwards handwritten A, they all sound the same to me. There's not much difference, but I consider those to all be aw. This one here, the backwards C, that's the British. The O-ish sounding aw. I don't think he pronounces it correctly there. It's more like all, not all. This guy who does these pronunciation really sounds sickly, and he doesn't do them properly. A lot of times he's saying diphthongs where it's a monophthong. Now, the way that you demonstrate that it's a monophthong is you need to sustain the sound for several seconds. He should be saying oh, instead of saying oh. I don't know what the creaky voice jazz is all about either, but it's poor. It's just a really poor audio audio sample, a library that they're using with this vowel chart, in my opinion. It's not a very good way. Each one of these symbols represents a monophthong. It's a pure vowel. So it should sound like a pure vowel. It shouldn't be changing as he says it. And the whole deal where he sounds like he's about to expire physically from some sort of disease in the middle of, speaking these vowel sounds, that's very disturbing as well. I'm getting off track, sorry. Well, I think that's all I have to say about this Cot-Caught Merger. I won't be demerging. It's not worth it. There's not, everything is about weighing the pros and the cons. I would say that the British, they like what they have, and they're welcome to stay with what they have. But here in America, we're moving towards merger. There's no reason not to, and it makes good sense to merge. And I'm not going to demerge, even though I'm opposed to destroying words by merging. In this case, if we can get away from the A with the double dots, which sounds too much like ah to me, then I'm all for merging. Okay, so that's my complete dissertation on the Cot-Caught merger. Take care. See you later.